You wake up to the sound of helicopters. Not sirens, not traffic. Helicopters. They're overhead almost every night now. Hover like vultures over a city that once promised everything and now delivers next to nothing. You live in Los Angeles. Or at least you're trying to. Outside your window, you see a Tesla glide past tents. A G-Wagon parks in front of a boarded-up shop. And somewhere in the distance, the Pacific sparkles like nothing is wrong. But you know better. You feel it in your rent, in your paycheck, in the tightening grip of anxiety that starts every morning. LA isn't just broken, it's actively cannibalizing itself. And if you're part of the middle class, you're next in line. This isn't the apocalyptic drama of some far-off dystopia. It's happening now, in real time, one eviction, one rent hike, one luxury high-rise at a time. This is the story of how Los Angeles, the city of angels, has turned into the city of economic exile, and how the ultra-wealthy, those who sip cold brew from glass bottles and buy cliffside homes with cash, are pushing the middle class onto the streets, literally. The cost of living in LA has always been high, but in the past decade, it hasn't just risen, it's exploded like a high-pressure pipe beneath a Beverly Hills swimming pool. Since 2012, the average rent in Los Angeles has increased by over 65%, but wages, they've crawled. For every dollar more you earn, your landlord takes two. And don't even think about buying. The median home price is over $900,000. That's nearly $1 million for something that still might come with peeling paint and a roach problem. Unless you're already rich, you're not buying anything. You're clinging. You can also cling on to my timely updates by hitting the subscribe button and liking this video. But here's where it gets dark. You're not just being priced out. You're being outmaneuvered. Hedge funds and real estate developers have swarmed the LA housing market like locusts, buying up properties en masse, turning homes into short-term rentals, and flipping neighborhoods into investment portfolios. In 2021 alone, institutional investors purchased 1 in 5 homes sold in LA County. That charming bungalow you dreamed about, it's now an Airbnb with a keyless entry and zero soul. And it's not just homes. Entire communities are being steamrolled. Black and Latino neighborhoods, once vibrant and central to the city's culture, are vanishing. Gentrification doesn't walk in with a welcome sign. It shows up with construction permits and Whole Foods, Boyle Heights, Highland Park, Inglewood, Echo Park, all places where families live for generations, now converted into hip enclaves where a single latte costs more than a bus pass. You're watching the erosion of the middle class in high definition. People who once earned enough to live decently, teachers, nurses, graphic designers, even junior tech workers, are now couch surfing, living in cars, or considering moves to Arizona like it's the promised land. Los Angeles has become a city where you can have a full-time job and still live in a tent. And yes, that's not hypothetical. Over 40% of the homeless population in LA is employed. Imagine clocking in for your shift at a downtown hotel, smiling at guests, and then commuting back to your Honda Civic parked on Venice Boulevard. That's not an edge case. That's a Tuesday. And the homelessness crisis? It's no longer the problem. It's you adjacent, your neighbor, your coworker, maybe even your kid's teacher. Over 75,000 people are homeless in LA County. That's more than the population of Santa Monica. Entire freeway underpasses have become neighborhoods. Tents stretch for blocks in Koreatown, Silver Lake, Skid Row, even Sherman Oaks. And no, it's not just addiction. That's the convenient narrative that makes it easier to look away. The truth? A massive chunk of LA's homeless are there because of one simple, brutal equation. Rent went up, pay didn't. Meanwhile, in the hills above, life continues like it's set to a Spotify playlist called Urban Luxury. Multi-million-dollar homes with infinity pools, private security patrols, Sprinter vans ferrying rich kids to private schools. They don't see you, except maybe through the tinted windows as they descend into the valley to go to Aruhan. They live above the crisis, literally, but they help cause it. The ultra-wealthy aren't just passively existing in this city. They're actively reshaping it. With tax loopholes, campaign donations, and a phalanx of lawyers, They've managed to influence zoning laws, slow roll affordable housing projects, and weaponize NIMBYism. Not in my backyard. Like it's a sport. Every time a developer proposes affordable units, it gets buried in red tape. But a luxury tower with 200 parking spots and zero conscience? Approved before the ink dries. And here's the twist that stings the most. This isn't an accident. It's design. A system where wealth begets power, and power reshapes the rules in its own image. Housing policy in LA has become a chessboard. And if you're not holding property, you're just a pawn. Take the Ellis Act, for example. A state law that was meant to let small landlords exit the rental business. Instead, it's been hijacked by corporate landlords to evict tenants and convert rent-controlled buildings into luxury units or short-term rentals. Families who lived in the same apartment for 30 years get a notice taped to their door, all because someone saw an opportunity to make 40% more with tourists. And what happens to those families? They scatter. Some try to find something, anything, in the outskirts of the city. Others double or triple up in a single bedroom. Many leave California altogether, swallowed up by the mass migration toward cheaper cities in Nevada, Texas, or Oregon. It's not just a loss of people. It's a loss of culture, history, memory. Neighborhoods that once pulsed with mariachi music, Sunday barbecues, and sidewalk tamales now echo with silence or the low hum of Teslas. What's left behind is a ghost of a city pretending to be something new. Cleaner, trendier, richer, but emptier, too. Schools suffer. Local businesses dry up. The social fabric frays. When long-standing residents are pushed out, so are the relationships that made those neighborhoods feel like home. It's not just economic displacement. It's emotional dislocation. That family-run bodega, where everyone knew your name, gone. The barber shop that doubled as a neighborhood therapist's office, leased out to a vape shop with a neon sign and no soul. When money becomes the only credential for belonging, every other form of value, cultural, emotional, historical, gets bulldozed in the name of progress. And while this displacement unfolds at ground level, the political response often amounts to little more than symbolism, speeches, ribbon cuttings, press releases about bold initiatives that rarely get funded. Meanwhile, real solutions like deeply affordable housing, robust tenant protections, and community land trusts are either sidelined or swallowed up by bureaucracy. In many cases, the very people tasked with solving the crisis are donors to the developers fueling it. It's a loop, a closed circuit of influence where money talks and voters wait for relief that never seems to come. And when affordable housing does get built, it's either on the outskirts, far from jobs, transit, and services, or it's so limited that the wait list becomes a cruel joke. You either get in by lottery or not at all. And don't even try calling the city for help. LA's bureaucracy moves slower than traffic on 405. Programs exist, but they're underfunded, understaffed, and overwhelmed. It's a band-aid on a bullet wound. The city spends over $1 billion a year on homelessness, yet the tents keep multiplying. Why? Because you can't solve a housing crisis without housing. And no, building more luxury condos doesn't trickle down. That's not how gravity works. The idea that the rich will live in the new units and magically free up cheaper ones for the rest of us is a fantasy cooked up by developers and economists who've never taken a metro bus. What really happens is this. The luxury units sit half empty as investment properties, while existing rentals get snatched up, renovated, and repriced out of reach. It's a musical chairs game where the music never stops. It just speeds up, and eventually you're standing. So what do? You think about leaving. A lot of people already have. In the last 5 years, LA has seen a net loss of hundreds of thousands of residents, most of them middle class. They head to Texas, Idaho, Nevada, anywhere where a mortgage doesn't require generational wealth. But leaving isn't always possible. Jobs, family, cultural roots, these things anchor you. And besides, why should you have to leave the city you helped build just because the billionaire class wants more space? You start to adapt. You downsize. You split rent with strangers. You live in places you never thought you'd live. And commute distances that make your gas bill look like a second rent. And through it all, you wonder, how did we get here? How did one of the richest cities in the world become so incapable of taking care of its own? The answer, of course, is policy. Decades of bad planning, deregulation, and neglect. Prop 13 froze property taxes and gutted school funding. Rent control was gutted in the 90s. Single-family zoning laws kept density low and prices high. And city officials, beholden to donors and real estate lobbyists, made sure nothing threatened the profit margins of the already powerful. Every attempt at reform gets watered down, delayed, or blocked outright. And here's the sick irony. The rich don't even suffer the consequences of their greed. They don't walk past the encampments. They don't hear the screams echoing down alleyways at night. They don't step over human suffering on the way to brunch. That's your reality, not theirs. But here's the thing. This isn't sustainable. Not economically. Not socially. A city cannot function without its workers, and right now, LA is bleeding them out. You can't run a hospital, a school, a transit system, or a restaurant without people who can afford to live nearby. This isn't just a moral crisis. It's a logistical one. And if the city doesn't act soon, like actually act, not just commission more reports and hold more press conferences, it's going to collapse under the weight of its own inequality. And yet, the machine grinds on. Developers still get tax breaks to build luxury condos no one actually lives in, while waiting lists for public housing stretch into the decades. Empty units sit dark in the skyline like silent monuments to greed, while below, families crowd into single rooms with no heat, no privacy, no future. It's not that LA can't build. It's that it chooses not to build for you. The cranes you see in the distance aren't constructing hope. They're laying the foundation for exclusion. Meanwhile, wages haven't kept up with the cost of anything. Not rent, not groceries, not even parking. The city's minimum wage may inch up every now and then, but landlords adjust faster. A one-bedroom in Koreatown can eat up 60% of your paycheck before you even pay utilities. And the gig economy? It's not a lifeline, it's a trap. Apps like Uber, DoorDash, and Instacart promise flexibility, but offer no benefits, no security, and no protection from the rent hikes waiting at the end of each month. It's a hamster wheel with no off-ramp. Transportation, long touted as an equalizer, has turned into another barrier. The metro is underfunded and unreliable, especially if you live far from city core, which more and more working people do. A commute that used to take 20 minutes now takes 90. And if you own a car, good luck affording the gas, insurance, registration, and constant maintenance. And don't forget street parking. If you can even find it, we'll get you fined for sneezing in the wrong direction on street cleaning day. It's death by 1,000 fees. Even education, once considered the ladder out, is crumbling under the weight of the same systemic rot. Public schools in lower-income neighborhoods are chronically underfunded, overcrowded, and short-staffed. Meanwhile, charter schools and private institutions flourish, siphoning resources and opportunities away from the very communities that need them most. So a family that's barely hanging on financially now has to make a choice. Stay and sell for less, or leave the city they've called home for generations to try and find something better. Somewhere, anywhere. And the worst part? So many people have internalized this crisis as a personal failure. Like it's your fault you can't afford a one-bedroom without a roommate. Like you did something wrong because you're working 3 jobs and still skipping meals. But this isn't a personal issue, it's a systemic collapse. The deck has been stacked, the rules rewritten, and the game rigged for decades. And the only way out isn't hustling harder. It's demanding more from city leaders, from developers, from the very structure that's been built to keep you locked out. Because this isn't just about housing. It's about the right to exist in the place you call home. And let's talk about one of the most underused tools in the toolbox: public land. LA owns thousands of acres of underutilized or vacant land. Parking lots, empty government buildings, old industrial zones. These spaces could be transformed into deeply affordable housing or community-owned developments. But instead, they're held in limbo or quietly sold off to the highest bidder. Why? Because there's more political will to protect property values than to protect people. That's not a city planning issue. That's a values issue. Then there's the investor loophole. Currently, investment firms can buy up residential properties without facing the same tax burdens or regulations that ordinary homeowners do. These firms turn homes into long-term assets, often keeping them vacant while the value appreciates. It's housing as a hedge fund, not a human right. And until that changes, until those loopholes are closed and holding a home hostage becomes expensive, investors will keep gobbling up neighborhoods one quiet street at a time. Zoning reform is another battleground, and one where LA keeps dodging responsibility. Right now, about 75% of the city's residential land is locked into single-family zoning. That means no duplexes, no triplexes, no creative density. It's a zoning straitjacket that was originally designed to keep neighborhoods exclusive and segregated. And guess what? It's still doing exactly that. Real affordability requires real density. And LA can't keep pretending you can solve a 5-alarm fire with a garden hose. And don't underestimate how powerful short-term rental regulation could be. In cities like Barcelona and Amsterdam, strict limits on platforms like Airbnb have returned thousands of units to the long-term rental market. In LA, enforcement has been spotty at best. Many listings that violate local laws still operate in broad daylight. While city enforcement officers are overwhelmed or underfunded, every illegal short-term rental is a lost home for someone who actually lives here. This isn't about punishing tourism. It's about prioritizing residents over revenue. Meanwhile, housing co-ops and community land trusts, ideas that were once fringe, are starting to gain traction. These are models where communities collectively own land and keep housing permanently affordable, immune to the whims of market speculation. Cities like Burlington, Vermont, and San Francisco have made real investments in these approaches. In LA, there are grassroots efforts trying to do the same, but they're underfunded and overwhelmed. With real political and financial backing, this could be a game changer, turning renters into stewards of their own future. But let's not kid ourselves. None of these solutions happen without resistance. There will be lawsuits. There will be political backlash. There will be people, loud, well-funded people, who claim that affordable housing will destroy neighborhood character, as if character only lives in cul-de-sacs and manicured lawns. But here's the truth. A neighborhood without nurses, teachers, and bus drivers isn't a neighborhood. It's a facade, a curated illusion. And it's time we stop mistaking exclusion for stability. Because when the middle class disappears, cities fall, piece by piece. There are solutions. Other cities have tried them. Real rent control, mixed income housing mandates, public housing that's actually livable, penalizing vacant investment properties, cracking down on short-term rentals, incentivizing community land trusts. But none of that happens unless the middle class demands it. Because let's be clear, no one's coming to save you. Not the developers, not the billionaires, not the guy who just bought his third home in Malibu and thinks homelessness is an aesthetic issue. It has to come from you. From voting like your rent depends on it. From showing up to city council meetings, even when they're inconvenient. From organizing with neighbors instead of retreating into isolation. From refusing to accept that this is just how cities work now. Because Los Angeles isn't dead, it's just diseased. And diseases can be cured if you diagnose them honestly and treat them aggressively. It's not too late, not yet, but it will be if the middle class keeps getting pushed into shadows, into silence, and ultimately into homelessness. So the next time you walk past a tent, don't just feel pity, feel fear, because that could be you in a year, or 6 months, or one unexpected bill away. And also feel rage, not at the people struggling, but at the system that made struggling default. You live in a city that was once sold as a dream. Palm trees, sunshine, opportunity. But now, for too many, that dream has turned into a nightmare. And unless something changes, really changes, you won't just be watching the crisis, you'll be living it. So buckle up, because LA isn't just in crisis. LA is in a crisis. And the clock is ticking.